Welcome to Out of the Box with Christine, the podcast for conscious entrepreneurs. Are you willing to step into your greatness? Are you ready to shine? Well, get ready, Truth Seeker. You're in for an amazing ride. And now, here's the host of the show, Christine Blosdale.
Welcome back to Out of the Box, everyone. I'm Christine Blosdale, your very own host of this program. I am super honored going into our 6th year. This is like our anniversary. This is perfect, Philip, because this is our anniversary show. So I couldn't think of a better way to kick off.
I'm honored.
The 6th year. My guest today is, of course, Phillip Mountrose, and he is the co-founder of the Awakenings Institute, which is a nonprofit organization devoted to making the world a more peaceful, prosperous, and honoring place. I got goosebumps, Philip. I just got full on goosebumps down my arms, down my back. That means you're supposed to be here at this moment in time on this 6th anniversary show. Welcome to Out of the Box with Christine.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and kudos for the great show and the achievement. That's kind of an out of the box word, kudos,
Yes.
meaning achievements and so forth. Since we're on the out of the box show, might as well be in the spirit from the get-go.
Well, 6 years in podcast land is like 60. It's like a dog years thing. So we've had so many amazing guests on. And I've gotten great feedback from the audience on how they're taking all this wisdom that the people that come on the show, they're taking it and applying it to their lives and their business. And that means we're doing our job. So welcome to the program. And I love your mission statement with the Awakenings Institute, devoted to making the world a more peaceful, prosperous, and honoring place. And especially right now, Philip, we could use a lot of that.
Yes, about 20 years ago, my wife and I, Jane, my partner, we had this insight, this download, whatever, of awakenings, this light of making the world a more peaceful, prosperous place where everyone's gifts are honored, including nature. And it's been kind of a guiding light, because when you have a vision, it's sort of like visual, it's guiding you forward. It's something you're here for. So it's a way to even unfold your dreams, which was part of it, into having an alignment, a direction of, oh, this makes sense or this doesn't make sense, navigation tool. So it's inspiring, and it's some people, it just sort of touches their hearts, and that's what we are about, opening the heart, ourselves and other people, and that's what I think the planet so badly needs right now.
Oh, absolutely. And you touched on something. What I find is that when you're in alignment with your mission or one of your missions, there is this energy, this flow that happens where things may not be always just easy, but it's an energy, a force that moves you or propels you forward. And those people that are keys to that do seem to come into your life and make it work. Can you talk about that with the Institute, that energy or that force behind it?
Yeah, the synchronicity, since we've been doing this a while, we're a little bit on the older side as things go, but we kind of figure we're just starting, even though we're in our, decades into this. And one thing led to the other. It was a little metaphysical, a little outside the box when we were starting decades ago, doing more spiritual entrepreneurship and helping people connect spiritual things in a very practical way. And that's part of our mission, bringing the heaven down to earth, that guiding light that we talked about in the mission statement. So we had to kind of take one step at a time, and we had to reach outside our conventional jobs. When I'm saying we, I'm talking about my wife and myself. It's not some kind of strange someone outside there. Who's he talking about? And my wife, Jane, was an architect, Jane Mountrose, and I was an educator. But after a while, we hit a wall, even though we were, quote, relatively successful, but it just wasn't really what we're here for. It was something we were here for a while, but I think there's stages of development that most people recognize, that midlife transition, midlife crisis, it can happen very early where, hey, there's something more here. This isn't, I need to be more inspired. And that really led us to more coaching and healing. And that, because we realized we needed to do a lot of healing for ourselves. And we also wanted to awaken spiritually. And actually, the two go hand in hand. Some people don't recognize it because they do coaching over here and healing here. Remember, I talked to a coach and he sort of thought they were very different. We find them just go hand in hand, yin and yang, man and woman. It just, I mean, how do you coach someone and get them very excited about their goals when there are all these blockages, these fears and doubts and inner child things? And I mean, or how do you heal your inner child? And then what do you do? Now I'm feeling pretty good now.
Right.
So you need them both.
Exactly. And it's the same with my clients. So many, they're absolutely amazing human beings that make their way to me. But what I find is that half of my job is giving them the tools so that they can create a podcast or a YouTube channel to share their talents and their expertise with the world. Right. It's almost like teaching someone how to have a television broadcasting company. So half of my job is that, but the other half is working on those wounds, those childhood wounds, people being terrified of being on camera, absolutely critical, self-critical. And this seems to be something that plagues us as human beings.
Oh yeah, it really does.
Is that very self-critical, it's that little voice that says, you're stupid, you can't do it, you're too old, you're too fat, you're too this, to that. Can you talk about that, how you work with people on that?
Yeah. Right. So yeah, that's, and then we all have that, and that's part of the human journey. It's interesting. I was thinking about that just fresh and the other day, and these things seem to often happen in childhood, although some people who kind of look at things in terms of past lives or say it could be carried over in some way. But it often happens even in this lifetime that we can track it. And it's interesting how it happens in these first few years, like all these things that, quote, mess us up, that go into our nervous system that we react to, that becomes our unconscious. We don't know how to deal with it very young. And then if we do awaken, and there's a stage of awakening where it's no longer tolerable. In other words, I can't sweep it on the rug. I can't just keep being afraid of this. I can't keep having this really bad habit, or it may even be an addictive habit or something. I need to do something constructive. I need to face it, even though it can be kind of fearful and nerve-wracking. And you may need to get help, which people like us probably are there for. And I know for myself, I sort of have different versions of myself that keep coming up at different levels in different ways. Maybe not being successful enough is one, not being alone, like being abandoned. Those are two, like the two little Phillip Mountroses. And I just have to kind of go back into my kind of parenting mature self, because I'm no longer a little child, although part of me is still there. So they're integrated like a happy inner family. And I work with people individually, and so does my wife, and we teach people these methods so they can heal themselves, which some people, to a certain extent, you do have to heal yourself, but most people really need help, especially for some of these deeper, more challenging things. And at a certain point, that's what you need to do to go on to really do what you're here to do, which may be part of healing this. If I'm going to help people be more soulful, more on purpose, which is what we teach and write about, I need to do that myself as much as I can. I don't have to be perfect. So I have to, physician, heal thyself. We've heard that, right? So that's part of the journey. And I help people do that. And I help myself do that. And it makes the world a better place, because if people weren't so wounded, they wouldn't be wounding other people.
Oh, absolutely, Philip. That's one of my key phrases, is hurt people hurt people.
Right.
And
it's a defense, and unfortunately, It ends up with people being very hurt in the process, and you're actually hurting yourself, even though it may not immediately come back to get you. It's because you can hide it under the rug or have certain external sometimes successes, but they're sort of hollow, and they really come back, and they certainly hurt the world instead of helping the world. When you can, why not choose to help the world and help yourself, like the Awakenings statement we said about making the world a more brighter, peaceful, loving, prosperous, honoring place.
Well, and something that he said that's really that resonated with me was that a lot of times things happen to us as children, and it creates that subconscious. But as children, we are so amazingly adaptable, and
Right.
we could be facing, I know as a child with me and the issues, the things that I went through as a kid, now looking back, I'm like, oh my God, you were so amazingly strong and able to always look at the positive, whatever it was, divorce, a father who was a bit of a lost soul himself, and took to the drink, as they say, quite a bit. And I wasn't able to relate to him because it was just such an explosive personality. But as a child, the brilliance in our survival skills and techniques just amazes me. But then as we grow up, if we don't sort of take care of that child and look at what we've gone through and say, okay, darling, you've been through a lot. You're not in survival mode anymore. Let's work on healing that part of you. So many of us, we're just so busy with the day to day. We have families, we have mortgages, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, right? So how do you work with yourself and with your clients on that?
A couple of the techniques that we work with, some of them we've actually developed some pretty innovative, effective processes over the last 25 years. Is a version of EFT, emotional freedom technique, which a lot of people have heard of. We call it holistic EFT, and we integrate some more kind of soulful approaches, and that's one energy healing. And the other one is called spiritual kinesiology, and that's a healing from the heart and the soul, actually getting guidance and directing you. So we help people use that, and we use that with people and teach people how to do that along with the holistic coaching. And I can kind of give you an example or even run through something with you. Please, if you'd like. Yes. That might be interesting.
We'd love that.
Okay, so tell a story or do a process.
Both. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you're being guided to.
Okay, well, I mean, is there something you want to, I mean, if you want me to do a little something to make you feel a little better on something, I could. I don't know if you want to go there, or I can just tell a story.
Sure, let's do me.
Let's do you. Okay. Let's see where we go. Okay, so all right. So what's something that's a little bothersome? Do you mind mentioning what it is that's a little troubling to you?
Yes, I will, because since COVID happened, I have gained weight. I am not excited about going to the gym, nor do I make the best food choices. And I am sure I'm talking on behalf of a lot of people that are listening to this.
Okay. So yeah, so weight there's sort of a lot of complexity to that, but so let's just break it down into one piece, because I wouldn't presume to say in 5 minutes here, we're going to just completely resolve every, because it's probably a complex things, but I think we could probably, for illustration, get kind of one piece of this, which might be interesting and revealing and engaging for the audience. If you think of one time when you were thinking about your weight, that it was like an unhappy kind of, you just incident, you're kind of thinking about something that kind of threw you off. Do you remember that?
Trying on clothes in a changing room.
You were trying on clothes in a changing room, and you were feeling what at that time?
Just upset, mad at myself. Mad at myself.
Mad at yourself for
letting it go, for not being on top of my physical body.
Okay, we'll do a little, one of the things in our new book, The Loving Power of Your Soul, is that we have these little processes of connecting with your soul, and you can do it for healing, like I'm going to do with you, or for insight, direction. And so if you kind of sense or imagine, some people are more visual, just sensing Christine, if you were imagine that incident with the trying on the clothing, and the feeling was anger, 1 out of 10, how angry were you, by the way, when you were thinking of that? 10
Oh,
is
pretty
the
much
total.
8 or 9.
Yeah, very angry. Okay. And so if you imagine that as sort of like being in the mud, something of that nature, can you kind of sense or see that for yourself in that?
Yes.
Just from that place, that one place. Okay.
Yes.
What's that like for you, being in that?
Sludgy, heavy.
Yeah. Okay.
Stuck.
Okay. All right. So we're going to just kind of imagine now rising up in your mind. You may see or sense it. You rise up to a beautiful mountaintop, a lofty perch somewhere, just as where it's really beautiful and expansive. You have panoramic vision. The temperature is just right. The sun is just right. Everything is just wonderful. And you're getting that sense of the bigger picture, right?
Yes.
What's that like?
It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Great. And from that more beautiful place, what are you kind of sensing about yourself and your body and your way? What are you kind of getting a bigger picture, like a more insightful, compassionate?
It's less about my physical body, and it's more about connecting with the outside world, with the nature.
Right. And are you kind of connecting with nature on the mountaintop there?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you connect with nature, what's that feeling like?
Unity, like unified.
Okay. Kind of sensing unified. Okay. Is there a color that you associate with it?
Yeah, it's almost like a purple. There's kind of a mix between orange and purple.
Okay. So that beautiful orange and purple, that unified feeling, right? If you were to kind of send that down to the old self, the former self in the mud with the clothes and everything, can you do that?
Yes.
Okay. What's that like when you send it back down to your former self or that past incident?
Lightens my that feeling, lightens it up.
Okay. So you have that lightening. Okay. Just let it continue to lighten for a moment. And as we're all getting a little lighter with you, what's that suggesting to you, Christine? And it may come now or later. There might be sort of an insight, and sometimes this takes a moment or two to percolate, or may come afterwards. That's okay.
Yeah, it's for me, instead of it being focused on myself, it's that connection to nature and to the outside that feels right. It feels correct.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. And just as we're closing here in this, we call this the mud to the mountaintop or apex process of bringing this higher perspective into, our challenges as a healing and direction. Is there any suggested direction or next step? There may be one now, and that might just kind of come in a moment. Maybe,
I got an insight that I need to go. We have a mountain not too far from us.
Yeah.
And my insight was you need to go, you need to hike up that mountain to get that feeling again.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. How does that seem
actually
to you?
That feels good. Yes.
Yeah. And it's not linear. It's not something that,
and it's not
but
dreaded.
It makes sense.
And it's not dreaded. Sense. Yeah. Even though it is a tough hike, it's not for the, it would take me a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Probably than what, a few years ago, but
right.
It's the journey as well, and paying attention to what you see along, not just being at the top. In other words,
it's the journey.
Yes.
It's the journey.
Phillip.
Yeah. And you can go at whatever rate you want, and you might modify that. But anyways, that's just, an example of something like I might do, of just sort of being with the person. And everyone can do this. It just seems to be one of my gifts. I can kind of be in a space with a person and kind of perceive things and help them navigate along embrace their soul and direction and support them in it.
This is wonderful. I'm so glad and happy that you went. Well, you are an educator still, right?
Yes.
Very much so, but that you focused in on this with you and your wife focused in on this to help people and to help the planet, because we all individually are those lights. What I find is that when we cover that light, with those old stories, those beliefs, those negative or harmful beliefs that we have, we dim that light. And right now, as we know, the world, the planet needs more of those lights to be turned on. So I think it's amazing what you do, what you and your wife are doing for people and the planet. You have something very special for our listeners and our viewers on YouTube. You have something very special, don't you?
Yes, I do have a nice gift that I think people who relate to what we're talking about would really enjoy. It's for people who are influencers. They could be change agents and thought leaders. I know a lot of people who listen to your show are. They could be what are called light workers, or just people who are holistically minded, spiritually minded, who want to help the planet, help people in their neighborhoods and so forth. We call it a kind of a holistic resource kit. And I have a tiny URL, abbreviated URL, so people can remember it. That goes to our website. It's tinyurl.com/spiritual-kit. That's tinyurl.com/spiritual-kit. And then they'll get this free. And in that kit are some resources, an excerpt from our new book, The Loving Power of Your Soul, a video on a holistic healing video, some resources that people can go further, and some other things that I think people really enjoy. And the other thing is that people, in case people want to work directly with me, some people, want to know me, we could do like a discovery session, a connection. And I wrote a tiny URL for that again, so it's easy to remember, tinyurl.com/heal-awake, because it's healing and awake, tinyurl.com/heal-awake, where we can help people heal and awaken and find their purpose and really help themselves and other people and sometimes people, and this would be like a kind of a beginning session to see if this makes sense to work with someone like me or my wife, Jane Mountrose.
I love that. And we'll make sure that we have the links. We'll have both of those links featured in the show notes, so people can just check out the show notes and click on them. And I want to remind people too that it's the spiritual, holistic minded people, like coaches, healers, influencers. So many of my clients are healers. I have master Reiki healers. I've got just absolutely gorgeous human beings who themselves could really tap into this and work not only to help themselves personally, but also their clients as well. And so we're going to put the URLs, we'll put the links in the show notes, and also we'll put a link to your book as well, so people can check that out.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
that's
all
great.
Right.
Appreciate
all right,
it.
Phillip, it's been absolute pleasure. You're welcome back on the show anytime. Please keep up with me and let me know what you're doing, what you and your wife are doing, and I'd love to help support you in any way. You're a beautiful energy, beautiful light. I knew it right away when I saw your when I saw your photo. I was like, oh, okay, I got the goosebumps again. Okay, I'll do it.
And I love the work you're doing, and you're a change agent, thought leader, healer, and more, an entrepreneur, doing tremendous work over the years. I'm really impressed.
Thank you, love. Thank you so much. And I want to thank you, wonderful listeners and viewers on YouTube, for tuning in today. Remember, if you are on YouTube, like, subscribe, ring that bell so you can get notified of future shows. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, rate and review as well. If you want more information about the podcast, you can go to outoftheboxwithchristine.com. If you want more information about me, go to christineblasdale.com. And again, all the links to this show are going to be in the show notes. Until next time, as I always say, remember to think outside that damn box. Bye for now.